Please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Prabhupada.
Who's going to work the slides?
Yes, we're sharing the slides, Guru Maharaj. Just 2 minutes. Just a little warning that the slides are full of graphics. Actually, it's quite heavy slides, and I've been requested to put it on the full mode. So I will do that. However, it might be a little slow. The presentation might come little slow because there's so much graphics in the slides. So we will try, hopefully. Yes, over to you, Maharaj. Thank you.
So we're beginning the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Gyantimirandasya Jana Jana Salakaya Chaksun Milipayena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Sri Mati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Fikshari Nirvisis and Sunyavani Bhaskatya Devi Satarines Panchakalpatarubhishya Kripa Sindhu Preva Chapatitaram Bhavane Yo Vaishnave Yo Namaho Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Yadvaita Gadadhara Sridhara Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this chapter is called the most confidential knowledge. It seems it's sometimes saying it's the most deepest philosophical chapter in the entire Gita. Therefore, it's given that title. Most, not confidential, most confidential. Krishna reveals a lot about how he thinks and how he does things with his devotee and the interaction between him and his devotees, which is the essence of bhakti. So there's a summary of the previous chapter. Those of you who were here yesterday, you remember the different categories. And it's good to look this over again, go back over it, and see how it connects with the preceding chapter, or the succeeding chapter. That's this one coming up. Here's a summary of the different verses. There's 34 verses in this chapter. The knowledge of taking shelter of Krishna, ways to approach Krishna, and devotional service in its essence, its sweetness. Here's a little bit better breakdown from the chapters. First one, hearing about his qualities. Everything is explained here in these 5 different categories. You see, Krishna very systematically gives this knowledge. This is the beauty of the Bhagavad Gita. In other scriptures, particularly Srimad Bhagavatam, a lot of the knowledge is sometimes not given systematically. But in Bhagavad Gita,
sketch code.
But in Bhagavad Gita, it is given very systematically. Okay. Next chapter, next verse. Here we go. First verse. Sri Bhagavanu Vacham Idam Tute Goyatamam Pavakshami Anasuyave Jnana Vijnana Sammitam Yad Yadvam Mokshase Subhat. Krishna begins by saying, Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most secret wisdom, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. So, Krishna makes 2 very powerful, 3 points in this here. And he says the qualification for understanding this is non-enviousness. And because you're non-envious, you'll be able to understand this secret wisdom. And what is the result? You will be free from the sufferings that come by way of living in the material world. There's a breakdown of the different, here, let's see here. Anyway, go beyond this one. Yeah, go to the next slide. Okay. Now this is the second verse. Rajavidya Rajagoyam Pavitam Midam Tamam Prabhaksyava Dharmam Susukam Kartamavyayam. This is a very mysterious verse. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It's the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and is joyfully performed. So many qualities that this, what is actually this knowledge, which is the knowledge of pure devotional service. It says here it's the most secret of all secrets. But Krishna is making it available for everyone. Why is he called it the secret of all secrets? Because although people may read it and try to understand it, they can't unless they're engaged in devotional service. That's why it's secret. It's secret, but at the same time, it's revealed only to those who engage in devotional service, pure devotional service. And as it's mentioned in the previous verse, those persons are non-envious, and therefore they can easily understand this knowledge. It's pure. Go back. The knowledge is pure. That means it's not mixed with gyan, or karma, or yoga, or anything. When one learns this knowledge, one can understand oneself, that one is no longer, one is not the material body, but one is the pure soul, part and parcel of Krishna. This is the perfection of religion. There's nothing higher than this to understand. And then this is eternal. It's always been there, and it will continue to exist eternally. And the best part is susukam. It's joyfully performed. Not only sukam, but susukam. That means very joyful. So devotional service is a platform of happiness. Next verse, next slide. Here we go with different images of the different 9 stages of bhakti. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padaseva, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. When you get a little bit of indication of what each one means, like that. And we come, yeah. Go back. Don't go until I tell you to go. Okay. Padma Sevanam, serving the lotus feet of the Lord. How does that differ from becoming a servant of the Lord? You can't say it's deity worship because Archanam is already mentioned as a separate anga of worship. What is Pada Sevanam? Serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Can anyone say?
Is it Guru Maharaj? Sorry, Shridevi Mataji, go ahead.
Going on pilgrimages, following in the footsteps of the great souls as well as the Lord as he performed his various pastimes?
Yeah, that's it. Going to holy places, following in the footsteps of great souls, and taking part in annual festivals such as Janmashtami, Radhastami, Gaur Purnima. This is activities that come into the category of Padasevana. The rest are quite easy to understand. Yeah. Padasevanam is a little bit of a mystery in the sense that it doesn't explain itself. unless you actually know through the acharyas what padasevana means, serving the lotus feet of the Lord. So to go to holy places and to worship holy men in holy places is padasevana. Okay, and the rest are self-explanatory. Next slide. Now here, and this is how activities play themselves out. By ignorance, we perform an activity materially, and then there's a result of sinful. Because of ignorance, we develop sinful desires or wrong desires, and we get, because of that, that's bija, papam. Sinful actions come by way of sinful desires. Actions are not in and of themselves the source, it's the desires first. And the desires are inspired by ignorance. From that, there's two kinds of manifestations, either direct or delayed, or immediate and delayed. Aparabdha karma is what is unmanifested. We might do a sinful activity, but we won't get the results until it's appropriate. Parabdha karma is that it manifests itself immediately, and then there is some suffering. Kutam is the mentality by which one performs these sinful activities, which is very similar to sinful desires. So you get the cycle. And so a lot of times devotees wonder why they get certain kinds of sufferings in their devotional services, because of these things they're called parabdha karma. They're manifested at a certain time and not immediately by the action that's being performed. They may take some time. Sometimes they even take many lifetimes to manifest. And we have examples in the scriptures how a person will perform an activity and get the results in a later lifetime. And the reason for that is because the ingredients to give the results are not present at the time of the activity, and though therefore when the ingredients actually manifest due to the time element, then they manifest in a certain reaction. So parabdha karma is there. Aparabdha unmanifest reactions and manifest reactions. Aparabdha karma is unmanifest and parabdha is manifest. So things don't necessarily happen immediately in terms of results. Okay. Let's see, sinful act. Okay, this chart here on the left refers to the activities on the right there. Okay, next slide. This one is interesting. Astradadanan Purusham Dharmasyasya Param Tapam Aprapyamam Nivartante Mrityu Samsara Vartmani. They left out the I, Vartmani. Those who are not faithful on the path of devotional service cannot attain me, who conquer foes but return to birth and death in this material. So this element of faith is the foundation by which one makes progress in devotional service. And Prabhupada explains that in the purport. He says there's three kinds of faith. People come to devotional service for various reasons and not for the actual reason. So they may come, and that is glorious, but their motivation is something else. They want to improve their material life. They want to gain something material. They want to find some position they can't find position in the material sense, so they look for it in spiritual circles. In other words, they're motivated in the wrong way. And therefore, that's faith in the third class. They can't stay fixed in devotional service. they will fall away in due course of time. Second class, they may also come for the wrong reason, but when after engaging in devotional service, they start to understand what is the actual reason for engaging devotional service to awaken one's love for the Supreme Lord. So they develop faith in the process and keep themselves on. Although their knowledge is not complete, they may have preliminary knowledge. They don't fall down, but sometimes they cannot explain or defeat opposing arguments because of their lack of full knowledge. Therefore, they're second class, but they don't fall down. And the first class is one who's fixed in knowledge and in transcendental activities, can defeat all oppositions and all arguments from coming from anywhere. That's usually the pure devotee of the Lord. Even if they're not pure, if they have full faith and required knowledge, they can continue on devotional service, and they can also make others Krishna conscious. So different kinds of faith. The faith is very important. And for those of us who are practicing devotional service, your faith will be tested. Krishna tests your faith through different means by which he sees to help you become more fixed in devotional service. So you'll get tested. But don't let these tests destroy your faith. They're just opportunities for you to increase the quality of faith. Sometimes Prabhupada would say, my spiritual master is wrong, but he's right. In other words, I may see something that looks wrong, but I know it's simply my misconception. He cannot be wrong. It's just the way I see things. And that has to be searched out through scriptural understanding. But faith is important. It's called strata. Strata means that faith which is not broken in any situation. That was mentioned in the 6th chapter of this Bhagavad Gita, that one who has attained that, even in the midst of the most dangerous situation, they remain fixed in devotional service. Next verse. Next slide. Now Krishna is talking, by me, in my unmanifested form, the entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. This is an interesting thing. He says, all beings are in me, but I am not in them. What does that mean? Can anybody try to explain that one? All beings are in me, but I am not in them.
Like he is all-pervading and present everywhere.
Yeah. If he is, then he's also in them also. But he says, I'm not in them. That means by his all-pervading force, he's not in them. But by his all-pervading force, he is in them. But at the same time, by his personal force, he is not. This verse is meant to defeat the Mayavadis who say that everyone is God. Everyone is God. And therefore, all you have to do is practice various austerities and penance and worship, and you become the supreme. So this verse requires some explanation. Prabhupada's purport really brings out the meaning of this, because it's quite a contradictory verse when spoken by Krishna. I am not in them. He is in them, but at the same time, he's not in them. He's making that point just to destroy this argument that the living entity is also God. Does that make sense? Is it clear?
There is a comment in the chat, Guru Maharaj, from Premokishwari Mataji, Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva.
Yeah, yeah. But he doesn't mention that. He mentions, and I pervade everyone. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. That means he remains outside in his personal form. That's what it really means.
Guru Maharaj, could you please explain that one more time? By this unmanifested form, he pervades the entire universe, but in his personal form, he is there in each and everyone's heart. Is that what is being explained?
No, it means that he's saying that if you say that he says he's in everyone as his personal form, then the Maya bodies will say, yeah, yes, everyone is God. So he says, I am not in them. That means he remains outside of his personal form, his Bhagavad form.
So, all beings are in me, but I am not in them, is speaking of which form of the Lord?
Uh, he's going back and forth between two forms. Here, let me give you the explanation as it's explained here in the page here. It says here, because he is, one should not conclude that because he is spread all over, he has lost his personal existence. We view such argument as I am everywhere and everything is in me, but still I am aloof. For example, a king has the government, which is the manifestation of the king's energy. The different governmental departments are nothing but the energies of the king, and each department is resting on the king's power. But still, one cannot expect the king to be present in every department personally. That is a crude example. Similarly, all the manifestations that we see and everything that exists, both in material and spiritual world, are resting on the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The creation takes place in the diffusion of his different energies. He is everywhere present by his personal representation, the diffusion of his different energies. Was that clear?
Yes, Guru Maharaj, thank you so much.
Just like the sun is everywhere by its sunshine, but the sun is not, you can't say the sun, the actual sun glow is everywhere. If it's in one place, it's your glow. Okay, and yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of the living entities, and although I am everywhere, still myself is the very source of creation. He's talking about his personal form, but in his all-pervading form, everything rests upon him. As he says that in the 7th chapter, all things rest upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. So he's presenting his personal form in contrast to his all-pervading form, who say that everything is God. Therefore, we can worship anything because it's all God. Go back. I think we forgot that previous verse. Go back. As the mighty wind blows everywhere, always, as the mighty wind blowing everywhere, always rests in ethereal space. Know that I am in the same manner all beings rest in me. Seems a little contradictory when you think about it, but you have to understand how Krishna is presenting this. Therefore, Prabhupada's purports really are needed to understand these different presentations by the Lord. He is everywhere, but at the same time, he is outside of everything. Everything rests upon him, but at the same time, all that is created does not rest in him also.
But Guru Maharaj, this statement is, in contradictory with the earlier one, where it says, all beings are I in me.
Yeah, appears to be contradictory, but he's talking about his personal form as opposed to his all-pervading form. In the all-pervading form, everything rests upon him. Because now the all-pervading form is like the rays of the sun. The sun is localized, the rays are all-pervading. Similarly, the Brahman effulgence, all beings are within the Brahman effulgence. But he personally is outside of the Brahman effulgence in his personal form. So in one sense, the Brahman effulgence is non-different than him, but in another sense, it is different from him. Coming back to it's come to beta tattva. One and different simultaneously. Is that clear? If it's not clear, just read the Prabhupada's purports in this section. Next slide. The whole cosmic order is under me. By my will, it is manifested again and again. And by my will, it is annihilated at the end. So, by his will, Parashya Shakti Vidhaya Suyate Swabhaviki Jnana Pratyaya. By his will, everything is manifested again and again. His will inspires his energies to move according to. And then you have the creative energy, we have the maintaining energy, we have the annihilating energy. So everything is working under his direction through his different energies. Oh, Dhananjaya, all this work cannot find me. I'm ever detached, seated as though neutral. Although he's in everything and is the source of everything, he does nothing at the same time. Everything is carried out by his energies. Which in one sense are non-different than him, but in another sense they're different. Next. Mayadakshena prakriti suyate sachiracharam hetunani kunteya jagar vipartam thing. So this material world produces moving and non-moving beings. And by this rule, it manifests and creates, annihilates again and again. So God is working through the material energy for the different manifestations of creation and annihilation. Material energy is God's energy for providing for the living entities everything they need to live in the world. At the same time, giving the reactions of both sinful and pious activities to the conditioned souls. So everything is coming through the material energy, but he is the source behind it. And there's moving beings, there's non-moving beings. 8,400,000 species. Some of them are called stavara. Stavara means not moving or stationary. Yeah, this is a very important verse. So sometimes you might want, people say, well, you know, God is so cruel. So many people are suffering because of whatever, and God is the control of the material energy, so he's causing so many people to suffer. So how would you answer that? If he's controlling everything in the material energy, then why is it that he is not to be blamed for the reactions of the good and bad that come upon the living entity?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, is it because it's of our own actions that we create our own karma under Krishna laws?
What? Say again?
Is it because of our own actions we create our own karma under the laws of a material nature that Krishna has laid down?
Yeah, he's simply giving you the results of your own activities. But people don't distinguish between proper action and wrong action, and therefore they blame God when they suffer. It's like, why do bad things happen to good people? There's no such thing as why do bad things happen to good people. Bad things happen to people who commit bad activities. The rule is absolute. He says in the 4th chapter, you know, as you approach me, I will reward you accordingly. And so if you want to enjoy the material energy, then you plug into the 3 modes of material energy. And you have to suffer and enjoy according to the actions you perform within the material energy. If you're a good citizen, you get some of the benefits of material energy. And if you're a bad citizen, then you have to suffer. In any case, material energy is simply giving you the results of your own activities. And Krishna has nothing to do with it. He's simply, just like a person makes a watch, the watchmaker will make a watch, and then the watch will work according to how he makes it. But he's not present in the watch anymore, although he made the watch. So no one can blame one's karmic reactions on the Lord. They're simply given by the quality of one's activities, based on the quality of one's desires. We saw that from the previous thing about the different stages of how action plays itself out accordingly. You know this, then you understand that, you know, as long as you work underneath the material energy, you're always going to get either 3 different types of active results. You're going to get pious results, you're going to get impious results, or you're going to get a mixture of both. 3 modes. Okay. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature, my supreme dominion over all that being. When God comes to the material world, they think he's like one of the embodied created beings. Therefore, Krishna calls him Mudha. Mudha means fool. They can't see how I am not affected and I'm supreme over all activities in the material world. I create the material world, but I'm not controlled by the material world. In the material world, when somebody creates something, they also become controlled by their own creation. But not Krishna. Krishna is exempt from that because he's pure spiritual, and therefore he is not affected by anything material. Although it may appear like that for those who have limited vision. Next. Mogasya Moga Karma no Moga Jnana Vicheta Saham Rakshashim Masurim Charivan Prakritim Mohinim Sritaham. Those who are thus bewildered are attracted by demonic and atheistic views. In that deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. So for the demoniac and the atheist, they're always struggling to control the material energy. But ultimately, everything ends in defeat. Mahatmanastamam partam daivam prakritim astritaha bhajantyana anayam manaso yatva bhutadim avyayam. Great souls are not deluded, they're under divine nature, and they're fully engaged in devotional service. They know me as the personality of Godhead, original and exhaustive. So now Krishna makes a distinction between the divine and the demoniac. First he mentions the demoniac, and now he gives the qualities of those who are divine. They're under the protection of the divine nature. You have to understand it. When you're engaged in devotional service, you are protected by Krishna through his spiritual energy. And therefore, you're not subjected to the laws of the material energy. Unless you still are somewhat contaminated by that association, then you may get a mixture of both. But those who are fully engaged in devotional service, they're given full protection by the Lord. Okay. Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantasta chidadutaha namasyantaschimam bhaktyam nityayukta upasitam. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me. These great souls perpetually worship me with devotion, characteristics of the great soul. One time, someone asked Prabhupada, where does it say in the Bhagavad Gita that one should chant the holy name of the Lord? And Prabhupada pointed to this verse. Always chanting my glories. So yeah, the great souls, that's what they do. They bow down, they act with great determination, and they're always absorbed in worshiping the Lord with devotion. When you see somebody like that, then you know they are what we call Mahatma. Where is it mentioned here? These great souls, Namanya, let's see, where is it mentioned here? Yantas Chajitaha. Can't see it in the Sanskrit. Okay. Manam Yantas Madbhaktya. Yeah. Great souls. Srila Prabhupada in London. Next one. Pitaham asya jagato matta data pitamaha vedyam pravitam omkara riksamayajra evacha. I can't see the whole thing. I am the father of this universe, the mother, the supporter. So now Krishna is mentioning he's everything. Father, mother, support, granted, object of knowledge, purifier. He's a syllable Om. He's a Rik, Sama, and Yajurveda. Continue. That's the universal form. Everything material is there. I am the goal, sustainer, the master, the witness, the abode, the refuge, and the most dear friend. I'm creation, annihilation, the basis of everything, the resting place in this eternal scene. Krishna is revealing all of his opulences, how he is actually everything. For those who are not convinced, he goes on to say, I control heat, rain, drought, immortality. I'm also death personified. Both being and non-being are in me. So it's interesting. Even the cataclysms or the catastrophes in the material world, Krishna says, I control heat, I control rain and the drought. In other words, through his energies, these things are happening. But he is the source of energy and he is the controller of the energies at the same time. Okay. Did we miss something? Go back one slide. Go back to the previous slide.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, I'm trying, but it's not happening. Let me just come out of the, I think.
What's the next one? Keep going. Keep going.
Oh,
Okay.
there was some graphics, Guru Maharaj, that's why. I'll keep it like that.
So, is Prem Kishori there?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Accept
Who-
family obeisances.
These guys are these two bicycles. That means they're going fast towards the heavenly planets, and then once they get to a certain point, they have to work their way back up again. Is that what it means? These guys-
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Going up and then going down, like a ferry wheel or biking downhill or uphill. Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Okay, fighting uphill, fighting downhill, always on a merry-go-round. What is it? Karanam Gunasango So Sarasat Joni Janmasu. Sometimes up, sometimes down, struggling to find some place in the material world. But no one can stay permanently in any place in the material world. They enjoy flickering happiness through various Vedic principles. Okay, next. Hariyam Chintayanto Mam Yejanam Payupasate Tesham Nityavitanam Yogashema Vahamyaham. But those who worship me with devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and preserve what they have. So one who follows this particular formula, and Krishna takes care of everything you lack, he carries. The story of Arjuna Acharya, who read this verse. He was a poor man, And he would go out begging every day. So when he read this verse, he scratched out, I carry what they lack. He didn't accept it. And then Krishna appeared in the form of Krishna and Balaram and brought all of the things that he needed for his daily livelihood to his doorstep when he was out begging. They approached his wife. So then he understood, yes, Krishna takes care of everybody. He takes care of all of his devotees. So, and if you're lacking in anything, if you're engaged in devotional service, he takes care of that. And whatever you have is never lost. He preserves that also. That means any advancement you make in devotional service, even if you stop and you don't make any more, say you give it up, and then whatever you've done, that's preserved. And will then again begin your next life from that point. Okay. Whatever man sacrifices to other gods, as son of Kunti, is actually meant for me alone. It is offered without true knowledge. Can you explain that different pictures on the right there? Kishori?
Gurmaj, it's like different demigod worship. If somebody wants a very nice wife, then they worship Mother Uma. If they want very good health, then they worship Sun God. If they want very good education, then they worship Mother Saraswati. Like that.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Yeah, so again, Krishna says the same thing he said in the 7th chapter. Whatever the demigods can provide is actually coming from me alone. And whatever offerings that you give to the demigods is actually meant for him alone. So don't waste time worshiping the demigods. Worship the supreme God, Krishna. Those who worship the demigods will take birth amongst those. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth to such beings. Those who worship the ancestors goes to the ancestors. Those who worship me will live with me. There's a philosophy that says yatamat tatapat. You can do anything you want. You can worship anyone you want. It's all the same. No, but Krishna destroys that. He said, according to the type of worship, you get the results accordingly. It's not that you can just worship anything and get the results that you want. You get according to the nature of that worship. And there's that philosophy, yatamata tatapata. I'm okay, you okay, you worship, I worship. Because we all worship, we're all the same. No. And Krishna dispels that argument, which is quite prominent in many places. Okay. So, Patram Pushpam, Pavam Trayam, Yome Bhakta, Panakshiti, Taraham Bhakti Pavitam, Asnami Paritatmaraha. Is he asking for a leaf, a flower, a fruit, and water? No, he's asking for whatever you offer it with devotion. And he uses these simple examples to say that it's the devotion that counts, and the offering is just an expression of that devotion. Well, without the offering, there is no devotion, but it's the devotion that makes the offering acceptable to Krishna, whether it's an elaborate offering or it's a very simple offering. that's secondary. What's most important is that it is uh, done with devotion. And then he accepts. Asnami prayatatmana, I will accept it. So some people will say, yeah, that's good. I'll just offer Krishna some peanuts, some sugar cubes, and a few nuts here and there, and we'll eat pakoras and sandesh and kachoris and puris and halva. We'll eat. No, the spiritual master teaches you how to worship the Lord by offering the best that you have to the Lord. But you have to understand this verse within a broader context. And some people will say, well, yeah, God is just asking for flour, leaf, water. Yeah, all right, I'll do that. But I'll eat, nice, luxurious, succulent foodstuffs. And that's bogus. You can't do that because Krishna will not accept it, because you're simply thinking in terms of your own sense gratification rather than thinking of how to offer something. But if that's all you have, a leaf of flower, food, or water, it can be acceptable when you offer it to devotion. But just like there's a parable in the Christian tradition where Christ was present at a particular gathering, and one lady, she was very poor, and she offered something to Christ. And another person who was very rich, he offered a very large amount. But Christ appreciated the poor lady's offering more because for her it was a sacrifice. For the man who was rich, it wasn't a sacrifice. So therefore, when we make a sacrifice to serve the Lord, that is called bhakti. Bhakti means to accept some difficulty in terms of giving up what I like in order to serve the Lord. But if you have $1 million, you offer $1 million. If you have 10 cents, you offer 10 cents. That's the point. Not that you have $1 million and you offer 10 cents. Prabhupada used to say, Krishna doesn't see what you give, he sees what you're holding back. Because he knows that the more you give, the more happier you'll be. Okay, next verse. Yat karosi aranasi, yat chahosi dadasi, yat tapasyasi konteya, tat kurusha swamararpanam. This is a nice verse. All that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering to me. This verse is generally for the grihastas who have so many activities to perform based on their lifestyle, that he's saying, all right, whatever you do it for me. Offer it to me. And then that offering becomes acceptable. Next verse. Samoham sarvabhuteshu name dvaisastina priyam ye bhajanti tumam bhaktyam maiteteshu chapyaham. Krishna says, I envy no one. I'm not partial to anyone. I'm equal to all. So that first line, he says, yeah, I'm equal. not impartial. I'm not envious. But then he goes on to say, but one who renders service unto me is a devotion, is a friend in me, and I am also a friend in him. So there's the difference. So he is partial to those who render devotional service to him. It's just like, to give you an example, a parent will have so many children, and the parent loves all of the children equally because they're all his children. But some listen to the father and some do not. So the ones who do not listen to the father, they don't get much of the benefits of the father because they don't really adhere to the principles that the father gives them. But those who do, the father is inclined. So it's not that the father is unequal, he's equal to all, but he's reciprocating according to how they approach. So one who approaches Krishna in devotion, Krishna gives him, and ultimately he may also give himself when one reaches pure devotion. Next one. Apichat Sudaracharam Ajate Mananyabak Saraiva Samantavya Samyabhya Sito Hisa. Even if one commits the most abominable actions, if he's engaged in devotional service, he is considered saintly because he is properly situated. So it's not that one can commit abominable actions and be considered saintly, is that what it means is somehow or other, due to situations, if one commits an abominable situation, one breaks the principles, falls down, and commits some horrible activity, but then again picks themselves up and engages in devotional service, that person is considered saintly because he knows ultimately that devotional service is everything. This is a very hard to understand verse, and many people don't understand it. Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about this verse where he says, and those who see that person to be saintly, they are also considered saintly. Interesting. Those who see that person who committed abominable activities and now is engaged again in devotional service, and they consider that person to be saintly because they see that way, they are also saintly. So material world is like that. One can somehow or other fall, slip, commit some illicit sex, some intoxication, do something wrong. But if one picks themselves up, repents for their activities, and engages again in devotional service, Krishna says he's Mahatma, he's Satan. That's Krishna's special mercy. Unfortunately, in our society, we don't follow this principle. When somebody does something wrong, we want to condemn them constantly and we want to think that, oh, now they've done something wrong, they're out, they're a bad person. And that's not the way Krishna sees it. If they pick themselves up, stop performing their bad activities, again engage in devotional service, and then they are considered saintly. But those who commit abominable activities and then go away because of that, or being pushed away because of that, and do not engage in devotional service again, then they do not fit into this definition at all. there's a nice dialogue, which I don't have the book. It's written in Shivaram Maharaj's first volume of Vilapa Kusumanjali, where Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur presents this scenario with Krishna and Arjuna going back and forth on this topic. So Krishna is explaining how he feels, and Arjuna is saying, well, yeah, but he did this bad thing, he did that. And Krishna is shooting down all of the arguments. And he says at the end, declare it very loudly, my devotee is saintly. He is. So devotional service is so powerful that even if one falls from it, if they get themselves back up, then all of that can be pushed aside and one can again be situated in the process of devotional service. It's not like, well, you made a mistake, you're condemned forever. No. The rectification is, what's the rectification? Apologizing and making proper remuneration for one's to the offended party, if they do that, and at the same time they stop their bad activities completely and again engage in devotional service, it's like it never happened. That's Krishna. You see here Jagai and Madai. Lord Chaitanya is angry because they offended Nityananda, but Nityananda wants to forgive them. And eventually Nityananda wins out. And Jagai and Madai, they, although they committed so many bad activities, they actually became devotees and were able to associate with Lord Chaitanya's associates. This is devotional service. A very difficult verse to understand, very difficult verse to apply to each and every situation. But it's the principle of how Krishna sees those who fall down. As Prabhupada said, to fall down is third class, to get back up is first class. Is that because you fell down, you remain third class? Get back up, that's all. Okay, next verse. Shiptram Bhavati. And then Krishna says, he may say, he says here, he quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting place. Declare boldly that my devotee never perishes. Krishna declares. Next verse. It's similar to the verse coming up in the 18th chapter. Manmanam avavad bhakto manvidimam namaste manmaivaishyasi yuktaivam atmanam apparayana. Always engage your mind in thinking of me. Offer obeisances to worship me. Completely absorbed in me, you surely will come to me. This is mentioned again by Krishna in the 18th chapter. He wants to emphasize that this is the essence of bhakti. Think of me, worship me, offer your obeisances to me, like that. The 4 principles are mentioned. Okay. And here's the summary of the verses again. Okay. Okay, ready to go. Sri Devi's got her hand up.
Please go ahead, Sridhar Mataji.
Please accept my humble obeisances, dear Guru Maharaj. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all glories to the Bhagavad Gita. Such a wonderful chapter again. Thank you so much for the nectar. Guru Maharaj, on this point of he becomes saintly because he gets back to devotional service, even though he has sinned. The point is, of course, well taken that every sinner has a past, but as long as we get back on track, Krishna forgives us as long as we are sincerely endeavoring to make amends, apologize, face, whatever has to happen, etc. My question is, maybe it's a little controversial, but in our society, people have been found to make such abominable, terrible actions, but no punishment, no disciplining, no nothing is meted out. And generally, they're allowed to get away scot free. And who knows what happens in the end to them or to the victims or anyone. I'm just wondering, is it that we don't take legal action because they're devotees, so we want to not, do that? But how does that help the person?
I'm not sure I understand that point because sometimes the reactions or the disciplinary situation comes in later on, but I can't say that people are allowed to perform abominable activities. I can't agree with that premise.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mataji. Thanks, Balaji. Yes, Balaji, Prabhu, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Gauranga, and all assembled devotees. In one of the verse, it has been mentioned that meditate upon my transcendental form. Maharaj, could you please explain that little bit clear? Is it like we have to think, meditate upon the form, or we need to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra all the time?
Well, that's qualified by if you're chanting, that's the form of Krishna in the form of sound. Kali Kale Nama Rupa Krishna Avatar. Krishna has come in the form of his name. So if you're meditating on the name, you're meditating on Krishna's form. Because the name is non-different than Krishna. It's called Nam Rupa. Rupa means form, the form of the name. So either his personal form in the form of the deity, his form as the name. Yeah, these are the two main manifestations of Krishna's form in this age. Yeah. The name is non-different than Krishna.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
It's transcendental sound, but it's a form of transcendental sound.
Thanks, Balaji. Yes, Raj, Prabhu, please go ahead.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to your Maharaj, all glories to all devotees. Maharaj, you're talking about sinful activity, and I was wondering if it's always obvious that something is sinful activity or not. Can you explain what the definition of sinful activity is?
Well, that's described by a sinful activity. There are different types of. There's a broader definition, and then there's a very precise definition. The broader definition is to disobey the laws of God. That's considered to be sinful. Sinful activity means those activities which fall within the category of the modes of material nature, such as the mode of ignorance, like that, and the mode of passion. So activities in the mode of passion and ignorance are either destructive, or selfish, and therefore they're sinful. In the mode of goodness, they're not, but even in the one who performs activity in the mode of goodness, if they're not obeying the laws of God, in one sense, they're sinful. That's the broader definition. Prabhupada makes that point. As he said, he says, pious and impious, it's all impious. Why? Because it's material. But then again, we categorize things as pious and impious within the realm of the material energy. So activities in the mode of goodness are pious. The other two modes are impious. But then again, take it from another perspective. Anyone who doesn't follow the laws of God is sinful. You can choose. See, you cannot choose, but you can see the limited or more precise definition and the broader definition of what is sinful. Offenses are sinful also.
Okay, so that's quite a wide scope of what is in the sinful category.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj, for explaining that.
Because God has given us the way by which we should live, and if we don't follow it, then we're acting contrary. Acting contrary means we're disobeying. Disobedience is another form of rebellion. So that's sinful.
So Maharaj, Krishna says, remember me always and offer everything to me. So does that mean any time that we're forgetful of Krishna, then we're performing sinful activity?
No, not if you're engaged in devotional service.
Okay.
These are general topics for those working within the material energy.
I see. Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Thanks, Raj Prabhu. Maharaj, there is a question from Namrita in the chat. I'll read it. Hare Krishna.
I have another example I want to say to
Yes.
Roger. It's like you're walking on the street and you're stepping on insects or various types of bugs. So you're committing some sinful activities. You're killing other living entities. So you can't help by walking on the street, and you can't help but to kill. Killing is all unnatural to live in the material world. But if you're walking for Krishna, if you're doing some devotional service, then even if you're killing something, you're not responsible for that, because in devotional service, one is free from the reactions of all kinds of activities. So staying with devotional service, you can avoid that. Just like the Jains, they put the masks on because they know you breathe in living entities and you kill them. But devotee has to breathe anyway. And so if he's breathing and serving Krishna, even though he's killing living entities by breathing, he's not responsible because he's engaged in devotional service. Don't take advantage of it. Hare Krishna. Sorry about, I got this terrible cold and it's harassing me. I have to stop every once in a while here.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah. Continue.
Yeah, question from Namrita. Hare Krishna, my question is actually from previous chapter as I was studying. What is the difference between consciousness of the soul and the subtle body? If we say the soul is not leaving the body due to attachment, then it is talking about consciousness or subtle body.
We say that the soul is not leaving the body because of,
Due to the attachment.
yeah,
Then are we talking about the consciousness not leaving the body or the subtle body is not leaving the body because of the attachment?
talking about consciousness. The subtle body is just a combination of the finer material elements. It's directed by the soul, which is the element of consciousness. The subtle body doesn't have consciousness because consciousness works through both the gross and subtle bodies to give animation to both. There's no presence of the soul, then both elements, gross and subtle, are just dead matter. So it's consciousness.
I hope that answers your question, Namrata Mataji. Now she's saying thank you. Any other questions, devotees, from anyone? No. So maybe we can close the session now. Tomorrow. Oh yes, Dipti Mataji, please go ahead.
You have to ask the questions too. There's 2 questions for every class.
Yeah, they've just. Srimati Mataji, do you let me just pick up these questions first, and then we can run the poll. Sorry,
Yes,
quiz. Dipti Mataji, please go ahead.
yeah, thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisance, Maharaji. Maharaji, my question is that we learned in the class that we should pray Krishna, not the demigods. But when we do the prayers, we do like a Namaste Saraswati Devi prayer, right? So there we are actually doing the shloka for Saraswati Devi. So just trying to understand why we are not only doing Krishna's. So that's my question.
That's just that's a decoration. That's not worshiping the Saraswati. One who is decorated with all knowledge. That's all. That's simply an ornamentation describing the quality of a pure devotee. That's all. We're not worshiping Saraswati in that one.
Oh, okay.
We're
Yeah.
just
So
we're saying that person is full of knowledge. That's all.
I think yesterday somebody as well as like for Ganesha. So now here we are chanting like a Saraswati Devi shloka, right? So that's why I got that question. Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thanks, Dipti Mataji. Raj Prabhu, please go ahead.
Thank you. Hare Krishna Maharaj. The first verse, I think it was, Krishna was saying that he was speaking this knowledge to Arjuna because Arjuna was, or one of the reasons was because Arjuna was non-envious. So he could understand this knowledge. So is non-envious a qualification for realization of this knowledge?
Yes, 100%. Because envious means in competition with Krishna. You're envious, you're competing with Krishna. If you're not envious, you're working in connection with him. You're following him. Enviousness is the reason the living entity falls to the material world because they don't want to worship Krishna in the spiritual world. They want to worship. They want to be separate from Krishna and enjoy separately. I mean, that's a sign of enviousness. So yeah,
Okay, so
necessary to become free from envy in order to understand this knowledge.
Is non-envious work on a scale? I mean, like, because I always figured that non-envious was like quite a high status, and that there was like a smaller number of devotees that are like really non-envious, or is it?
I'm not sure if I caught that question.
Okay, so I thought somebody who was non-envious, because I remember devotees always said that like Janakinath Prabhu was non-envious, and we always like thought, oh, that's a high. So I thought that was quite a high status and like something to work towards. So is non-envious something that we are sometimes and not sometimes, and that he was like always non-envious? Is it work like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because sometimes you think you're non-envious, and then you're put into a situation, and then you'll see whether you're non-envious or not, how you react in that situation.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
Scarlett Mataji, please go ahead.
Yes, Hare Krishna, and thank you very, very much for today. I'm so sorry I can't have camera on because I don't have any cover on my head. In verse, I have to read it here. In verse 26, it says that if someone offers to me with love, and that make me wonder, if someone do it with respect, and of course have a faith that Lord Krishna is real, everything, he's the owner of everything, he's the God, and so on and so on. But in the same time, do it with respect and a bit of fear instead of doing it with love, because still having difficulty to understand what love it means. Is it not accept? Does Krishna say no? I don't accept this. This is not good offering.
No, you want to understand what love is? There is those who do things in an official way because it's their duty. And they just do it because it's their duty. But when you do it with feeling, and you ask the Lord, please accept this offering, and that these are elements that indicate one is offering with devotion. You sincerely want Krishna to accept your offering, you will offer it in that mood. Or if you just want to get it done, you just do the offering.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scarlett Mataji. Guru Maharaj, I've got a question related to what Raj Prabhu had asked about the enviousness. So some people we come in our life, in spiritual material life, they're very competitive. And even if we don't see them as a competitor, they're always in each and every activity that they're competing with us. How should we deal with such type of maybe devotees or people, Maharaj, Guru Maharaj?
Don't pay attention to them.
Okay.
They have nobody to compete with, then they have to give it up.
Okay. Makes sense. Thank you. Thanks very much. Shrimati Mataji, do you want to run your quiz now?
Yes, Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Prabhupada. Thank you so much for the wonderful class. So, dear devotees, I'm going to start the poll today for the 9th chapter. So, the question 1 is on your screen. I guess you are all able to see. The 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita is called the most confidential. What is most confidential here? The knowledge of. I request devotees to participate. 12 out of 23, 13. Out of 23. $17. 18. I'm going to end this poll in 15 seconds. Yeah, 19 out of 23. Yeah. Almost everyone participated. Thank you so much. I'm going to share the results now. The correct answer is the fourth point, unalloyed devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And 16 out of 19 answered it correctly. And 3 people got it wrong. Yeah. And I'm going to go for the second one. How does Krishna helps and protects the devotional service of a pure devotee? For such a devotee, Krishna
Interesting choices.
after 23, 19.
Anybody want a hot cup of milk?
20 out of 23. Yes. Thank you. I'm going to end here. So the correct answer is carries what they lack and preserves what they have in devotional service. And everyone got it right. Congratulations. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Srimati Mataji. Your quiz is making it alive. Very nice. Dr. Shashni, do you have a question?
Yes, please, if I can. I'm so sorry.
Yes, please go ahead.
Please accept my humble obeisances and all glories to Srila Prabhupada and to Maharaji. Thank you so much again for a lovely class, and I hope you feel better. Maharaji, can I just check? I think I'll just ask it straight out. In text 34, it says, Krishna, engage your mind always in thinking of me, becoming my devotee, offer obeisances to me, and worship me, being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. So my question is, as much as, for example, for myself, I will aspire to be a devotee. I am thinking that, like yourself, like you've obviously achieved, you've achieved a level, the brahmacharyas and all the others that have taken those vows. Can I still be a devotee even if I'm still aspiring? And will I obviously gain liberation from Krishna? Or is it that we have to be at a certain level? Is there a distinction in the level of aspiring to be a devotee? And I think what I'm asking is, even the little bit that I'm doing, is that still considered being a devotee?
Well, Krishna says he rewards you according to how you approach him. And so there's those who, according to your level of practice, you're going to be situated on one of the different stages of bhakti. The more you free yourself from the attachments in the material world, the more you move forward to higher and higher stages of bhakti. The process of bhakti is positive activities, but the positive activities are meant to result by removing the coverings of material energy, which are our attachments to this material energy. And as we remove the attachments, we move forward into higher and higher stages until one becomes free from all material attachments and develops attraction for the Lord. And from that attraction comes an attachment, and that attachment manifests by always want to serve the Lord, always want to associate with the Lord. So the process is very systematic. So anyone can perform it on any level. And there is no material category where one material situation is better than another. I think we mentioned that in the last class I did, that even those who are born in very low categories of material energy, who are below the Varnashram system, if they take seriously to devotional service, they can also achieve perfection. So from the material point of view, one person may seem to have more advantages than another. Just like, for instance, if a person is intelligent, then they may be able to understand more easily how to execute devotional service. But then again, if a person is more intelligent, that person may think that because I'm more intelligent, I'm more advanced. And then that's contrary to making an advancement in devotional service. So if a person is rich as a person to poor, it doesn't make a difference. A person who is rich may be able to build a temple for the Lord. A person who is poor may only be able to give a small donation every once in a while. But then again, Krishna is accepting the bhakti and not so much the offering. So material situations variable from person to person. So what everyone has to work in such a way as take their material situations and use them in the service of the Lord. That's all. The service of the Lord makes everything equal. The material situations may be very diversified. There may be different levels of inequality, but that becomes all equalized for one serves the Lord.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that explanation. Thank you. That's helpful. And thank you for a wonderful class.
Thanks, Mataji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Yes, now we can, I think, close the class. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj, for your time, association, and such a wonderful class. It was really nice, especially 9th chapter. It's amazing. So many instructions from Lord. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. And thank you so much, devotees, for joining. Please join us again, same time, 12 o'clock UK time for 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. We hope to see you all tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Guru Maharaj ki